Okay, just a few basics of the pen tool here. If you're frustrated or just beginning and need a little help, let me give you a couple of tips here. First thing we're going to do, especially with this assignment, the trace the cartoon character, we're going to bring in an image of an animated character. So find an image online or use Homer, download it from Canvas, bring him in. If you go to File and Place, that will bring in an image right onto your project, or you can just open an image and then it will be a tab up here. You can just click and drag it with the selection tool onto your document. Once you've got the image there, you want to create a new layer. And so if you create a new layer down here, this button right here, create new layer, and then on the layer of your image you want to lock it. That way you can't click and drag. It won't go anywhere. If it's unlocked, it will click and drag and then you'll lose track of where you're at. So click the lock button and then click on your layers to make sure that you are putting the pen or your paths on the new layer that you've got. Okay, now another trick is to double click on the little image on the layer. So right here, if I double click there, I can dim the image to 50%, and then I can see my strokes a lot better. So that helps as well. Okay, a couple things about the pen tool. The shortcut is P, so on the keyboard you can hit P, and we're also going to use the direct selection tool quite a bit to select anchors and change them. So I always go between pen tool, direct select tool, P and A, and I'll show you that here in a second. Now your layer's got to be visible. If it's not, oops, what happened here? That's okay. Okay, your new layer's got to be visible, otherwise you can't put anything on it. So I'm going to zoom in by holding down Alt and scrolling. And you pick a point to start. One trick to the pen tool and tracing something is make a lot of paths. So this will be one path, a separate path. This will be a separate path until it joins up here. If there's kind of a 90-degree angle somewhere, or if it comes up perpendicular to something else, then you make a new path. You don't try and continue it. So, but the pen tool, click and drag, and that pulls out your anchors. And the longer the anchors, the more curved your line's going to be. Okay, now I'm not showing anything here as far as my line, so I'm going to come here. My fill should be none, so you can click on fill and click this if there is a fill. And then stroke, you should have a stroke, so you can click on stroke, and then down here on your stroke panel, just click 1 or 2, whatever, however thick you want it. So I'm going to do 1 for now. I can always change it later. Okay, so my handle is really long, and that makes the curve well, it makes it come out really far, and I don't want it to come out that far. So I'm going to grab Alt and click my handle. So I'm holding down Alt, and then I bring it back to where it needs to be. Okay, I'm done with that path. I'm going to start a new path. So Control, click, hold down Control, and click. And then if I hover over anywhere on that line, if I zoom in, it shows that it says intersect or just path, and I can stick a point on that path. I'll click and drag right on that path. I want everything to be connected because when I do the live paint, that's what I want it to be connected. Okay, so I've got my handle out here. It's kind of long because I'm going to come way out here. This is one, I want this to be, so one of the tricks to the pen tool is to use as little anchor points, as few anchor points as possible. And you just have to get used to that. So I'm not going to click here and then click here and then here and then here and then here. Even if I make it curved, I don't want that because I could make it nice and curved. But I don't want so many anchor points because then it's not as nice of a curve. So I'm just going to do 1 from here all the way to here, and you kind of just get used to this. I'm going to click my anchor point out until I get it kind of close to where it needs to be, but I'm always going to be going back and making adjustments. So now I see that this anchor, or this handle, needs to be pulled out a little bit further. So I'm going to hold down Alt, click and drag it, and get that line exactly where it needs to be. Now if I click here and move up because I want this handle to go where I'm going next, it does something kind of funny. And that's because this handle is so high, it's coming all the way up here and then trying to come back. So now I got to adjust this handle. So I'm always going back, but hold down Alt, click and drag down to where it needs to be. And then this one's kind of long now. And so it just takes some practice. Then I'm going to come all the way up here where it intersects with the next path or line. Oops. And I'm going to pull my handle out where it needs to go. Right there. There's my first path. Control click out. And there we go. Now I'm going to start somewhere else where it comes up perpendicular 2 lines. And so I'd maybe start right here. So I'm going to click and drag. Now let me show you if I mess up somewhere. I'm going to come down here somewhere. Maybe not there. Now I'm going to, you can always undo, Control Z. I use that all the time. So I'm going to stick it right there. And then if I happen to click off the line somehow, now I've got my pen tool, so I'm going to select my direct select A, and then I'll click on that path, I get it back, and then I'll go back to P to get my pen tool. But now it's not connected. It didn't connect me to it, so I'm going to undo those two, and I have to come up here and hover on the end of the line where I left off, and it gives me that little / That means I'm going to connect it. Also, if I've got my pen tool, well, let's see, if I connect it there, I've got some tools up here. So if my anchors, if my handles are all messed up and I want something different, so I've got maybe a corner there and I want it to be smooth, I go back to A, my direct select, I click on the anchor, and see my handles are all messed up. I want them to be connected again. So I can come up here, there's some tools up here that you can use. I mainly use this one right here, which connects or changes my point, my anchor, to smooth handles again. So then my handles are connected, it stays smooth. And then I can adjust them how I want. So that's one little trick. And I've got this handle down here, it needs to come in. However, I'd put this a little further down. So anyway, there's some tools up here on the pen tool. Actually, I'm on the anchor. Sorry, direct select tool, A, and I can change those a little bit. Then I go back to the pen tool. I need to click right here to get the path. Connect it again. So I come down here on this next curve and drag my handles way out. It's not perfect, so I need to then go back and adjust it. And right here, I'm going to hit A to get my direct select, click this, and I'm going to redo my handles so that they're connected. And that's probably not the best point to put an anchor, so I can get rid of it right here if I click this, or go back to P tool, P, and if I just hover over any anchor point, it gets rid of it. And that way I can kind of say, oh, I want this one, hold down Alt, click and drag, come down here, and I want this one to come up here. Okay, so I have 3 anchor points for that curve right there. So I'm trying to just get as little as I can. Oops, need to connect it again. As few anchor points as possible is always the best way, and it just takes a lot of practice. So just be patient, but as long as you know these tools, the different handles, how to move the handles and things, you'll get used to it. You'll be just fine. Okay, there's some basics to get started. Good luck.